Joel Embiid, the pride of Yaoundé, Cameroon, the process himself personified, and now an American hero. Joel Embiid was vital in Team USA's victory over Serbia to officially punch their ticket to the gold medal match and set their sights on their final goal of the Olympics, which of course is to take home that gold. He was instrumental in Team USA's victory, a 95-91 victory over Serbia, finishing the game with, to break down exactly, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 8 of 11 from the field, a plus 17, and a 4-point victory. And it felt a little bit like a Sixers game out there. That the second that Joel Embiid was stepping off the floor, things went south for Team USA in the same way that happens right here in Philadelphia. And for me personally, and I think a lot of people, it was just really cool to see Joel Embiid just looking like he belongs as one of the truly best players in the world, totally dominating that game alongside Steph Curry and LeBron James specifically. And don't just take it from me, that if you want to hear from anybody who this game mattered and who turned this game, we'll start with Anthony Davis, who said, quote, "Got 2 words, Stephen Curry, Joel Embiid." And LeBron James joining him in that sentiment following his post-game, in which he was asked about it, and he said, "Kudos to Serbia, but we came through. Curry with a vintage Chef Curry game. Joel was big time for us, and we needed it." LeBron James on Team USA's win over Serbia as they advanced to the Olympic finals. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this and say it was a perfect game from Team USA, though they clearly looked out of sorts for a good portion of it, and I do want to tip the cap to Serbia, who played some phenomenal basketball. I thought they were very disruptive in the half court to Team USA. Nikola Jokic elevating the whole team as he tends to do with the players around him, and really it felt like they just could not miss from 3 was the story of the game for me. And for Team USA, that there were some defensive breakdowns that I thought they helped down on Jokic with Joel Embiid guarding him far too much. I think the decision had to be, and ultimately did turn out to be, you leave Joel Embiid in one-on-one coverage, and what happens. That Jokic is going to get his, but ultimately he is most dangerous when he's picking a team apart as a passer and creating these open looks for others, which happened far too often in the first half. Now, for Joel Embiid specifically, it was really cool to me to just see him take things head on. That he's taken so much heat throughout these Olympics, the process leading up, whether it is the critiques about should he have represented France, should it have been Cameroon, is he even qualified to represent America? There's been a lot of nasty stuff said about this guy, and then add on to the fact that he simply has not played his best basketball for most of the Olympics, and specifically in the leading up factors. Now, I think he's been far better than is being recognized in recent games, but there's no doubt that today was very clearly the best minutes that he has played at the international level. That going to get a bucket in crunch time, he was in his bag. That he was hitting Dirk fadeaways, he was attacking Jokic. I also really do think that this is the most that we saw Jokic and Embiid going at each other. They were hooking elbows, they were getting called for offensive fouls. It was a battle in a way that there was no laughing in between plays. There was no smiling at each other in between. It felt like these guys were really going to war. And by the way, there was some speculation leading up. We saw the Joel Embiid tweaking his ankle in the last game following what was previously his most impressive performance in that first half, that maybe Joel Embiid would not be suiting up. And the ducking Nikola Jokic whispers came out. All these comments, everything being thrown at Joel Embiid once again. And for the record, I would just like to remind everybody that the record between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic is 9-2 all time. That while I understand there is this claim, this kind of, storyline that people want to build off of Joel not wanting the tough talent, the bottom line is Joel takes Jokic's lunch money just about every time these two match up. Now, Jokic is obviously a great player, both the two in the conversation for the best player in the world at this point in time. I think the torch has been passed, although we did see a little bit of a flashback to the LeBron James and Steph Curry's and Kevin Durant's of old in today's game. I think when you are having that conversation, that I think the surefire top 5 in the world is between Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, and Giannis is kind of my top 5 that I think is the case there. And we got to see 2 of the best in the sport go head-to-head on this particular stage. And that is really the reason that Joel Embiid is here on this Olympic team and why he is so vital. There's not another player that can go head-to-head with Jokic in the way that he did. That there were moments in which he stifled Jokic, where he attempted to back him down, and Embiid was not having it. There really is not another player that can do that and then pair with what he can do offensively. That Embiid really getting to the mid-range, getting to his spots. He was so effective in this game and truly was the turning point both in the first and second half here. Now, to dive into the box score as a whole, of course, Joel Embiid could not do this a whole, and the lifeblood, particularly early on, was certainly Steph Curry in this game. 36 points and 8 rebounds for Steph. Shot 9 of 14 from 3, 12 of 19 from the field overall. Also got a great production from LeBron James. With 16 points from the field, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists, a ridiculous triple-double for the 39-year-old, and not a lot of bench production. And honestly, my larger critique here would go at Steve Kerr. That as much as USA did get the job done, and it was frankly one of the best basketball games that I had purely watched, before I get too heavy in the critiques, I felt straight up patriotic watching this game. It was cool to see those guys be fighting back in the way that they did, all on the same page, competing, and finding a way to play together in a way that we don't see with players of that talent. That when you think into other times that we see these guys play together, and even in a lot of the prelims, there's a lot of just kind of coasting. That they know the talent's going to carry them. They put their backs against the wall in this game and had to fight out of it together. And you know what? They did. That it was LeBron James, it was Steph Curry, and it was our guy Joel Embiid really leading the charge in a lot of these conversations. Now, to get into my critique here, my number one would go directly at Steve Kerr, as I was frustrated, and I don't think he pulled the right strings. That yes, the overall product has to be better for each and every one of these players, that every player on roster should be capable of elevating this team beyond what was the case today, but it's also Steve Kerr's job to give this team the best chance to succeed, and I purely don't think that was the case. To start with, I'm not the biggest Jason Tatum guy in the world. I am a skeptic, but I do think in a game like today, he would have been necessary to this team. When you think about what Jason Tatum does well and what the team was missing, it's another connective passer. It's a guy who's a plus rebounder, which was still an area in which the Team USA struggled with pretty significantly, and he's still a guy that can go get a bucket down the stretch. Made no sense why not to mix that guy in for a little additional size and those factors I already mentioned, particularly against this Serbia team. I understand that matchups are constantly thrown, and it's very clear that this team is catered around LeBron James and Steph Curry, kind of as the stars of this team per se, even though all these guys are stars. And Tatum is not a clean fit with all those guys. That I do think he's a guy who struggles when his role is minimized to an extent, but I didn't see it in today's matchup, and I think it would have made a ton of sense. Now, beyond that, I've been pretty open and spoken pretty often on this channel that I do think Joel Embiid is not the best rebounder. That, yes, you see the stats there, and to flashback to what he produced last year, 34.7 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, and 5.6 assists, along with the 1.7 blocks and 1.2 steals. Oh, and by the way, 38.8% from 3 and 52.9% from the field as far as shooting percentage. Some ridiculous stuff there, but rebounding is not a strength of Joel Embiid. That, yes, he gets those numbers because he happens to be 7'2" and standing around the basket for the significant portion, particularly on the defensive end, but he's not a guy who goes up and gets the tough rebounds, and I think that was on full display today as well. So my pushback to this is, why not try him with an Anthony Davis or a Bam Adebayo? That everyone wants to rave about this Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo duo, which, by the way, I just straight up don't see it. That I don't think Bam's a good enough shooter to play off it. He's not a floor spacer. He really hasn't been for the entirety of his career, and this is the first time we're really seeing him in this type of opportunity. To Bam's credit, that he is stepping outside and taking him in a way that he has not before, but he's also not like an overly qualified shooter. If that's the vibe that you want to go for as a team, if that's the strategy you want to lean on, why not Joel Embiid, who is a proven three-point shooter, who is a guy who's incredibly comfortable operating in the mid-range on the offensive end, and then you can allow Anthony Davis to be that guy who is that lob threat and tip-in guy on offensive rebounds. That's something that I would have loved to see with this team. And that might especially be the case as they do go and play against France in that championship on Saturday for that gold medal match. And let me not remind you that the last time that we did see Joel Embiid suit up against Victor Wembanyama, he gave him 70 points in that game. 7-0. Just mid-range after mid-range that he was just shooting over it. And I expect more of the same come Saturday. We'll see how ultimately the rosters shake up. But for me, the biggest storyline of today is Team USA is still fighting for gold, and that would not be the case if Joel Embiid was on roster. If that was Bam Adebayo, if that was Anthony Davis in there going toe-to-toe with Jokic for the extent that he did, they simply would not be the same results. That Jokic looks borderline unstoppable for most of today, and ultimately Joel Embiid was able to put enough of a stop to it for the cream to rise to the top and Team USA to take over as a whole. Getting it done on both ends of the floor, looking like he belongs with the best players in the entire sport. Joel Embiid is that dude. And I think it is really important for the entire world to see that, because he has not received that proper recognition. That yes, here in Philadelphia, we will pound the table. We will fight for why he deserves MVP. All these type of things that we've done in past seasons and seen in past seasons. And there are critiques that you still have to acknowledge with Joel Embiid. He still has things to work on. He still has to wear the lack of postseason success on his sleeve. We understand that to this point. But from a talent perspective, Joel Embiid is one of them ones. And he proved it to every one of them, everyone in the world watching today. And USA is at the beneficiary of it. So shout out to Joel Embiid for staying the course, for trusting his process, for sticking with Team USA, and also making the impact that is necessary to this team. He is not a, in it for a free medal. He is vital to what this team needs. And I expect that to be on the case in the championship once again. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you as fired up as I am? It truthfully was one of the more patriotic moments of my life watching that game. I was fired up watching that team come back and compete in the way they did. Got some USA pride in there, and very happy for Joel Embiid to be a part of it. So let me know if you're on the same page below. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you haven't already. I cannot wait to break down USA winning gold and everything else that is still to come with Joel Embiid and the Sixers. Drop a like on this video, and I'll be talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.